And I've asked a question. Give me your definition of faithful. Here's the overwhelming response I get from every leadership team. Steadfast, consistent, dependable, reliable, loyal, true, trustworthy. If you go to the thesaurus, they're right on target. But here's the tragedy. I have never heard one leadership team give me one of the most important definitions of faithful, and that's multiplication. You say, how do you ever get multiplication and faithful in the same room? It's very easy. You look at the parable of the talents. Now, Jesus talks about this parable, and he says there's this very wealthy landowner, and he calls together 3 of his servants. This is Matthew 25, and he delivers his goods to them. That belongs to him, and he's saying, it's in your possession, you're going to be stewards, and I'm going on a long trip, and long trip is emphasized twice, meaning you are really stewards of what I own, okay? To one he gives 5 talents, to one he gives 2, to one he gives 1. Now, a talent is a bag of silver, but we all know Jesus is never talking about what he's talking about when he tells a parable. I mean, wheat represents godly people, tares represent ungodly people, seed represents the word. He's not talking about bags of silver. He's talking about our supernatural giftings.
Wow.
Charisma.
Come on now.
All right, so one guy, let's just put names on this to personalize it. Allison gets 5, Dave gets 2, Larry, and if your name's Larry, please don't be offended. Larry gets 1. It's nothing personal, okay? Larry gets 1. All right, so what happens? He's gone for a long time, and he comes back to see what they've done with what he's entrusted to them. All right. Allison multiplies her 5 into 10. Dave multiplies his 2 into 4. Now watch the judgment. The landowner says, well done, good and faithful servant. So if that's all we have, we cannot equate faithful with multiplication. It's the next statement. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many. You were faithful. Wait a minute. There is no other virtue, no other action spoken about in this parable on purpose, I believe, other than the fact they just multiplied. So Jesus directly equates faithful with multiplication.
There it is.
Okay? Now, let's talk about Larry. Larry maintains his one gift.
By the way, there's a Larry that works here, and he's a bodybuilder, and he might be around.
Oh, Larry,
so
please
careful.
don't take it out on me personally. Okay, so Larry maintains his one gift. The master, and Larry gives his reasoning. He said, I perceive you to be a hard man. Error number 1, he didn't understand the character of his master. When we really understand that God is for us and he's the biggest cheerleader in our life, we're not going to perceive him as a hard man like Larry did. And he said, and I was afraid. Number 1 reason the gift goes inoperative. It was the reason Timothy's gift went operative. He had a spirit of intimidation. Fear and intimidation is the number 1. This is why I love your friendship. I love knowing you as a couple, because there is 0 fear in this couple I'm looking at right now. Why do you think God has used you to impact the people that you've done? How many people reach out and say, Andre Buccelli, I want to talk about you. And you see, there's no fear. You understand you have a calling and you're on a mission. Okay, I was afraid. So I maintained your 1. Here it is. I'm giving it back to you. And you know what he says? You wicked and lazy servant. Now, Jesus does not use words carelessly like we do. First of all, these 3 guys are in this kingdom. They have the master's goods. Wait a minute. We got to understand. Okay, lazy, we understand. You just put off doing something, right? Because of maybe fear. What about wicked? Wicked means this in the Greek. It means possessing a serious fault that causes you to be hindered in your productivity.
My goodness.
Okay, what's his fault? The way he's perceived as master, being afraid, okay? You wicked and lazy servant. So in regard to our labor, not in regard to who we are, we're talking labor, not identity here. God views multiplying as faithful. He views maintaining as being lazy and even wicked. Now, we're not done, because it's going to get worse.
Severe Bevere.
So, I know, my wife says it all the time. So anyway, the very next verse, it says, take that 1 and give it to Allison. So let's do the math. Larry ends up with 0, and Allison ends up with 11. Are we tracking this right now?
Yep.
Okay. I'm in prayer one day, and this is like 2-3 years ago. In the morning prayer, the Holy Spirit said, son, you know I said in my word, my ways aren't your ways, my thoughts aren't your thoughts. I said, yes. He said, I am not a socialistic thinking God. My thinking is actually more capitalistic in the way I perceive things. Now, I'm not saying God's a capitalist, not saying he's a socialist or not a socialist. I'm just saying that his line of thinking is more capitalistic. I said, God, I remember that morning I said, you're going to have to show this to me in the Bible, and I am not saying this on any platform. Okay?
It's the way
because this is the way of getting in a lot of trouble with a lot of people, right?
Right.
And the Holy Spirit immediately brought me, and I hadn't read this parable in months, to the parable of talents. And he said, let me show you what the socialistic God would have done. He would have given them, each of them, 3. Allison would have been faithful. Dave would have been faithful. They would have multiplied to 6. He said, Larry would have maintained his 3. He said, then the socialistic God would have taken 1 from Allison, 1 from Dave, and given it to Larry, so they all ended up with 5. See, God never told us to take care of the lazy. He told us to take care of the poor. Now, that's a big aha moment for a lot of people. Okay? So his command is for us to take care of the poor, not the lazy. Now, the next verse is the one where it gets really severe. He said, yes. This is when he says, to him who has. Okay, so let's read it in line with this parable. To him who multiplies, more will be given, and he or she will have an abundance. But him who does not have, he who maintains, even what he has will be taken away from him and given to another. Okay, that's red letter. That's Jesus talking. Now, what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with God's very first command to mankind when he put him on the earth. What did he say? Be fruitful and multiply. He wasn't just saying have babies and populate the earth. He was saying anything I give to you, return it back to be multiplied. Jesus is just amplifying in the parable of the talents God's original command to mankind and making it even more specific. So if my talent is hairstyling, I should be believing God to multiply my hairstyling because other people are going to end up going, wow, I want to do it that way. How do you do it? If I'm a teacher, other people are going to be emulating, wow, how are you getting your students getting such great test scores on their ACT tests, right? This is what we believe for. It doesn't happen naturally. We believe for it. God, I'm going to shine with your abilities you've entrusted me with, and now watch us go to a whole new level.
At TBN, our mission is to use every available means to reach as many individuals and families as possible with the life-changing gospel of Jesus Christ.
Thank you for helping make the gospel of grace go around the world.
Without you, we couldn't do it. God bless you.